Hello, everybody, and welcome to another live broadcast of Adults Only. I'm your boy, Big Brother Jahi, and Chazz is over there, and we're going to talk tonight. But yeah, we've been off for a couple of weeks. I had surgery, Chazz, so I'm still making my bounce back. My recovery. So that's what's been going on, and we're sorry that we couldn't make it, but we're back now, and we want to continue this discussion that we've been having, I guess, since the last time we met. What you been up to?
Oh man, taking it easy. I'm kind of got to get back in the groove of things. So I'm glad that we're back. 2 whole weeks felt like almost a year, and like you said,
Yeah.
we've been off for a while. So I'm kind of hyped to get back on here, though.
Well, that's good. Well, let me tell the people something about this broadcast. This broadcast is a hard hitting broadcast. It's a no nonsense broadcast. Although we have fun, this broadcast can be seen every Wednesday at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time and at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. So I'm going to take this adults only door off, and then I'm going to let you have your fun, Chaz, because we definitely need to talk about this subject matter. And the subject matter that we're going to be talking about tonight happens to be some more helpful tips in life for group improvement. So we're talking about the group. So Chaz, don't you think it's important that we do broadcasts, at least right now, to try to give our people encouragement, because we're going through so much as a people?
Yes, encouragement is key here, especially all the terrible, tragic events that's been happening in Florida. These hurricanes, people are losing things left and right. People are looking for some kind of hope, and I think right now is a crucial time for, like you mentioned, for us to actually encourage people at this moment.
Okay, so having said that, this is going to be part two of our helpful tips in life for group improvement. Last week we talked about individual tips, but now we're going to look at it as a group phenomenon, because we are a group. We are a group of people that live in this country, and a lot of things affect us as a group. So we must talk that way. So, Chaz, the first thing we want to talk about as far as a tip, now we're going to get deeper into some other aspects, but we must start off with this, and this is a pet peeve of yours. You always ranting and raving about this, but as a group of people, let's look at this, and here's a tip that we want to give to you.
Don't be obsessed with social media as a group. And that's the thing. It's okay to get on it for a few minutes or here or there, but don't make that your life. Don't post every single second of what you're doing, every 5 seconds of who you're with or what kind of meal you have. And don't let it get to you from. Here's the thing, brother. When we get on these apps sometimes and we compare our lives to others, or we compare what they have or what we don't have, we get upset and we get angry and we get bitter. So the thing is, when you get on it, but don't compare your lives to others, because the thing is, it's going to add more stress. It's going to make you more frustrated. And on top of it, it's just going to make your health go down the drain when you're constantly obsessed with it. And last but not least, I'll pass it back. Don't be on that app 4, 5, 6, 7 hours. Try to limit your time and then get off that thing.
That's a good tip, Chaz, and I want to add to it, because as a group of people, there's many people that get on social media, but as a group, we seem to be obsessed with it. And this
Yes.
tip here is going to help us. We've got to pull away from it, Chaz. We've got to
Yes.
just take time out and create other things for us to do, because we'll never be better as a group if we spend 24/7 on social media all the time. Now, there are some beautiful things on social media. There are
Right.
some helpful educational things on social media, but the smut, the mess, the nonsense, the garbage, the bickering, the backbiting, all
Yeah.
of those negative things that social media gives to us, we've got to disassociate ourselves with that, because
Yeah.
as a group of people, it's really killing us. And I know you would concur with that, is doing us great damage. And that's why we have to give some tips.
Yeah, it's doing a sin, and I'll say this too: if you can have discipline. I know we all get notifications for our favorite content creators and stuff who come on here, but I would say this: if you have the willpower, cut those notifications off. Meaning, when you get on there, just get on there, scroll, do what you want to do. But when you sit by the phone, constantly waiting, when is he gonna post? When is she gonna post? And you know it's nothing but foolishness, chaos. Who fought who shot at who, stuff like that. If you can and have the willpower, cut those YouTube notifications or Snapchat, whatever, those dramified content creators, cut that nonsense out.
Yeah, that's true. And we always talk about, as a group, Chaz, we say that there's a lot going on within the African American community, and it's true. We have police brutality.
Yeah.
We have low wages. We have
Wow.
all kinds of issues that we're facing. But you would think that we would be more inclined to try to solve the problems that we face, as opposed to running to a platform of some type that's not doing anything but basically dumbing us down. It's time out for that, Chaz. It's so late in our lives that we should be looking at how do we solve all of these solutions that we have. What's another tip that we can give to the people?
Number one, know who our competition is. And I would say this too before I pass it. When I say competition, because I know we have some more points, we kind of explain a little bit more who our competition is. But I will put it in this simple term. I live life, I don't, and I'm not trying to be cocky. I would say don't have any competition, because when you're constantly, okay, Fred got this, let me go out and get that. Sheila or Susie got this, let me go out and get that. You shouldn't be competing with people about how much money you can make or how much cars you have, things like that. Compete with yourself, improve with how you could become that better person, if you will.
That's true, Chaz. And you took that on an individual basis, but I want to
Okay.
take it on a group basis now, because our competition would be any group of people who threaten or threatens our survival. And there are many groups of people who are threatening our survival. You look at how the American European, what they're doing, because if we're African Americans, then
Right.
they must be European Americans. You look at
Right.
what they're doing to us socially, politically, educationally, economically. You look at the Asians, how they're extorting us, they're taking
Mm,
things from us. And my whole challenge to us is we've got to create a buffer. See, we can't just complain about this. We
right.
must do something about our situation. And this is where the Achilles heel is within our group, because we don't like to talk about what we can do, because any group of people who's threatening our survival, we should be aware of these groups. We should
Right.
call it like it is. We should tell it like it is. And then we should be willing to do something, Chaz. Do something about people that are threatening the survival of our children, the
Right.
survival of our parents, the survival of us as a people by and large. And I think these kinds of conversations are not welcome, because we don't want to acknowledge the fact that we are really being threatened by
Yeah.
groups of people, and we have to really tell it like it is.
Absolutely. We got a comment in the building. Sister Barbara says, Hotep Kings. We appreciate her. Sister Marie says, Hotep family, I'm glad that you kings are back to give us more knowledge. Okay. We appreciate you. Brother William Tut says, I love you all. We love you too, brother. Brother Ray's in the building. He says, salute, black love, black respect, black power. Okay. What's up, Ray Ray? American, African Americans. Okay. William says false propaganda.
Yeah, and I want to put up another comment, but I want to, as they say, them young boys, I want to bite off of that right there. Chris is absolutely 1,000, not 100. He's 1,000% correct when we talk
Okay.
about giving our brothers and sisters tips. We gotta stop with this false propaganda. We gotta begin to know the truth, because we're so bombarded with so many lies. Many of us don't know the truth. We don't know religious truths. We don't know spiritual truths. We don't know educational truths. We don't know economical truths. We don't know political truths. We don't know many truths. And so the false propaganda has done us in. And I think that's very important, that we're able to acknowledge that there's so much false propaganda going on. And the tip that we're having is we must research, we must study, we must learn, so that we can combat that false propaganda.
Right. And I'm going to touch up on his after I read Brother Ray's comments. Brother Ray says any type of race, even a racial construct, to be behind is to lose as a race. He's right on that. Brother Angelo's in the building. He said, hey, brothers, what's going on, Brother Angelo? I want to comment on Chris's, Brother Williams' comment. He said false propaganda. And that is serious. It's important that we investigate ourselves and don't just take the Google's news or YouTube's news, because it's so much nonsense out there where a lot of it is not even true. So if you're
Mhm.
not doing your own research, if you're not doing your own study, you could easily be misled. And that's why it's so much false propaganda out here, to turn us every way but loose, but to stir us to the truth. So I would say it is important to do your own research and investigation.
Okay, Chazz, give us another helpful tip as a group to improve ourselves.
Number two, be much more concerned for our children. Yes,
Yes,
in that
yes.
we've done a broadcast, I would say similar about that, about our phones and social media. We're not spending enough time with our children. We're not doing a lot of parenting with them. All we're doing is giving them a phone, giving them a laptop, and they're shutting off in their room, or they're, doing outside with their friends. You need to be concerned with what's going on at their school. Are they getting bullied? Are people teasing them? Do they suffer from a low self-esteem? Also, be concerned with their mental health, because I think kids' mental health, it may not be as bad as ours, but when they're constantly getting teased and bullied and things like that at school, brother, these things are more important than just giving them a device and telling them to get out of our face and don't make any noise.
That is so true. And the thing I want to add to that is this. Many of us always talk about being nationalistic, or we're Black nationalists. We always talk about this future is our children's, but we do nothing right now to put our children in a successful position so that when they become older, they will be able to fight and they will be able to overthrow all of these evils that's in their lives. So many of us as men and women, we're hypocrites. We're not interested in any of our children. We're not supportive of our children. We're not financially helping our children. We're not doing anything educationally for our children. We're not looking at the psychology of our children. So we have a lot of people who like to talk, like James Brown said in one of his songs back in the day. We're talking loud, but we're saying nothing. Or another song says, you're talking out the side of your neck. So a lot of us always talking, but we're not a part of any organization. We're not a part of any institution that's going to help these children. Our children are faced with so much, and we know that it's going to get worse. But this tip that we're telling us now is so true. We have to be much, much, much more concerned for our children, in that we're going to do something, Chazz, instead of write and talk about it.
Absolutely. The next one is build our own educational system for our children. Yes, because the school system, or the public school system, is not going to teach them what they really need. Of course, they're going to teach you to go to school and work for another man or work for another woman. Our educational system, I'm saying, as a Blacks, we should be teaching them how to be a businessman for yourself, how to be a businesswoman for yourself. Don't always rely on the system. Try to teach them ways to where they're not so much dependent on someone else, but let them be dependent on their own self and their own study.
And one day I think we may need to do a broadcast on what education is, the real education, because most of us as adults, we have no inkling, we have no clue as to what education is, because we ourselves have been misled into a system whereby we think it's education, but it's basically miseducation. And so, like you said, we must have our own educational system that's going to teach our children to overthrow those people, those systems that is basically putting them down, those systems that's keeping them oppressed, you see. But we don't like to talk about revolution, see. We don't talk about revolution. All of the children that we teach should be revolutionaries, because that's what it's going to take. We don't want our children to be like other people, because we have a set of circumstances that are totally different than any other group of people. So therefore, we must teach our children that. And this is why a lot of times I like to listen to people talk a lot of yang, because they talk a good game, but they're not going to help build anything. They hide behind the cell phones. We hide behind the cameras. We hide behind our doors. And what we do is we talk, but we don't do anything to help these children. Our children are suffering from so many evils and wrongs. And as a group of people, all we're doing is continuing to send them to the same places that's brainwashing them, that's miseducating them. We don't support our HBCUs. We don't support anything that's going to help lift this oppression off our children. So we have some comments, Chazz, that I want to get to, but we could talk about this forever, because one day maybe we need to look at what is a curriculum? What's the function of a curriculum? What's the function of an education? Who should benefit from education? See, these are the questions that a lot of us don't like to answer, because we're so busy thinking that we know everything, but yet when you look at it, we're having some serious, serious problems.
Absolutely. Brother Ray fires in here. He says, many don't know how to do proper research. So they're stuck believing or not believing, and either way, it's not to know. He's right, and I actually agree with that 1,000%. Because I just basically said that a lot of us, we are not. In fact, I'll take it a step further, brother Ray. We're not doing research at all. All we're doing is sitting back. We're listening to Fox News. We're listening to CNN, and it's not anything against those sites, but you got to kind of be careful because everything you see on those sites, or even on TikTok, YouTube, all these apps, isn't always the truth. And that's why I say when you hear something, write it down on a sheet of notebook paper, Google it yourself, research it yourself. Even me, when brother John, that's on the screen, look and make sure what we're telling you, God, we wouldn't mislead you, but just to make sure that we're telling the truth. Don't just not doing anything at all. And for the people who don't know how to research, you should be able to go to Google and just type this information in, and you'll see it all pop up. And just make sure that you're on legit websites as well.
And I want to take a bite out this apple too, Chazz, because my thing is this. I understand what Brother Raymond is saying, and I concur with him, but that's just half the issue. Many people don't know how to do proper research, but the other half, many people do know how to do proper research, but we don't do anything about what we learn. See, we just want to look at books, and we should. We want to read. We want to talk about, as I often say, the solar system, the Milky Way. We want to talk about the universe, the Big Bang Theory, the quarks, the leptons. We want to talk about all these scientific truths, and that's fine. But we don't want to do anything about it. So my problem is not just so much many of us don't know how to do it. My thing is this. Those of us who do research, those of us who do call ourselves knowing something, when are we going to do something about it? Because it's not just about putting your nose in a book. It's about doing something about what we know, and that's where we fall short.
Absolutely. Brother Ray fires back in here again. He says, take the time to speak positive affirmations to your children every day before they leave home. Yes, especially our African-American brothers and sisters. The darker they are, the more highly it is for them to get teased, because dark is looked at as quote unquote ugly. But yeah, make sure that you're teaching them. They're young, they're beautiful, they're smart, they're courageous. You got this. Don't let people tease you about how your hair looks or how your shoes looks. You should be telling them this every time they leave out the door, because when they leave out that door, it's war. These people in these school systems are against them, and I hate to sound like a victim, but it's true. They don't want to see our black brothers and sisters win. In fact, and you add that on top of what the police are doing to us. So, Brother Ray, I really, really, really appreciate that comment. He is right. We need to make sure that we're speaking good things to our children when they leave that house.
Yeah, this is basically a helpful tip. If you look at the crawl going across the screen, it says helpful tips in life for group improvement. See, it's not just about me improving. It's not just about Chazz improving. It's about our group improving. And so this is why a lot of us don't have much to say, because we don't know how to interact socially as a group. We have nothing positive to say as a group. We have no insight that's going to give us encouragement as a group. And what he says is, take the time. If our group, if the African-American, if the blacks, if the whoever you want to call yourself, if we take the time out to speak positive affirmations to our children every day before they leave home, that will mean the world to our kids. But what do? We curse them out. We call them out of their names. We don't want to be bothered with them. And so these are the problems that we're having right now.
Right. Brother Angelo fires back in here. He says, mentored for 15 years, telling them they need to get to school. So I went. Okay, I'll get back to that. Now let me read Brother Ray's real quick. He says, education simply is to inform or misinform. Education is not knowledge. I want to ask you real quick. The previous brother Angelo, was that a typo mistake?
Yeah, well, no, he says he mentored for 15 years, telling them how they need to get school. So he went. I guess he was involved, which is a beautiful thing. I want to talk about this one though. Ray says education simply is to inform or misinform. Education is not knowledge. Yeah, all of that's true, but education, proper education, is going to help us do something. See, many of us are stuck. We're stuck on words. We're stuck at a red light. We don't go forward. We just sit there. So education is to bring out of a child what is deeply seated within that child. So we have to put things in that child that's truthful about their current culture, about their heritage, about their identity, so that they will learn to love themselves, about their creator, so they will know who they are. So then once they are educated, they'll be able to take that education and it will turn into knowledge, so they can use that knowledge as a person's driving a car, so that knowledge will be moving, that knowledge won't be sitting. So again, we need to look at what we're really talking about. Education, the proper education, is going to teach our children how to love themselves, how to be the best that they can be, and we will never take that away, because that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Brother Angelo fires in here. He says, because they are really scared of change. Yeah, some are scared of change. You can't be. You have to take a gamble. And not when I say gamble, don't do nothing stupid. But when I say gamble, go out there and put your best foot forward and do the best you can. And whatever happens, happens. But I was going to say real quick about education. Just dawned on me, brother. How many times have we heard where a person goes to college to, let's say, Yale or Stanford or all these prestige colleges, and they're getting the wrong degrees? They get out and they went to school for 3 years, but the degree that they have doesn't mean as much because they didn't study the correct curriculum. So basically, I would say, wouldn't you say that it's important to make sure that they're studying something that's going to further them instead of, studying for something that's not going to help them that often when they get out of college?
Yeah, I would say they should take that and use it for the betterment of our people, see? And that's what we get off at. Whatever we do in this life should be for the betterment of our group of people. It shouldn't just be for ourselves. And most of these schools that people go to, when you look at these helpful tips, these are schools to keep us in an oppressive state, you see? Yeah. So it's like taking the information, whatever we do, and use it to help better our group. We are at great risk right now. We've been ever since we've been here. And this brother here says, what's their inspiration now? Their inspiration is survival. Our survival is at stake. It's always been at stake. So that's the inspiration. And if that can't get us motivated, then we've lost. We are at war. And a lot of times we think we're living in a country, or we're living in a situation where everything is peaches and cream and everything is good. But I'm trying to tell us, brothers and sisters, we are at war. Our people are dying. We're being misused. We're being miseducated. We're being taken advantage of. And so what I'm trying to teach people, that this show is about helpful tips for life for our group, not for me and not for you. It's not about being combative. It's not about you and I saying things so people can feel good about themselves. These are tips that's going to help a group of people who have been burdened, a group of people who have been cast aside, a group of people who are still being kicked in the teeth, a group of people that's just being done anyway. So this is what we're talking about, and that's what we need to do.
Brother Ray fires back in here. He says, the burden of awareness is to know and still choose to do wrong, which is foolishness. Or you become wiser from knowledge.
Let me answer that. Let me answer that. Let me answer the second part. He says, or you become wiser from knowledge. That's what it's all about. Knowledge is the information that we get. Wisdom is putting that information to task. It's knowing, but then doing the right thing that you know to do. That's a tip. So let's talk about helpful tips for our people. Let's not get into back and forth about words and concepts. And I'm not saying Brother Ray is doing so because I know he loves our people as well. I'm saying, what are some help? See, this is what I'm talking about, Chazz. What are some helpful tips in life for our group? The helpful tips in life for our group is this. When you get knowledge and you use it to become wise, make sure you're putting it to good use so that our people can benefit from it. That's basic, that's simple, and that's what we're talking about.
Brother Angelo fires back in here. He says, I mentioned that they need to go and learn your enemy, then studies of who, no matter the color. I'll let you take that one out.
You have to study, but a lot of times, if you look at life, if you a certain age, you already know who the enemy is. I mean, you can study it, and I understand what he's saying. You can study as well, but if you're a certain age, because of what we've been through growing up, just opening our eyes, we already know who the enemy is. What we need to do, along with what he's saying, along with studying, We need to put together platforms and programs that's going to help us so that we won't always be crying. See,
Right.
and that's the problem, because many black men, many black women, we can always tell you what the problem is. And we all are good at that, and that's true. But when we talk about solutions, Chazz, you notice people don't have solutions because we're a one-trick pony. We're complaining about all the things, and we have a right to complain. But when
Right.
are we going to start saying, okay, let's stop these people from doing this? How do we stop these people? That's what you don't get a lot of. And like he says, this one here, the majority, then he says this here. That's why I went back, because of the fake path. I guess he learned that they tricked him, they deceived him, they duped
Right.
him, and he went back and he learned the truth. So we have a lot of comments, Chad. So I'll let you talk, but we have a lot of comments coming in. And if we have to wait till next week to finish it up, because we're talking about helpful tips, and all we got to is the second point, which is talking about our children, how we should take care of them. And now this thing is going on and on and on, which is great. But I think you want to say something about a comment.
Yeah, real quick, not about the comment, just something in general you said about solutions. And this is a basic one we all know. And I hate saying this, but this has to be brought out. Most of our problem as the whole is money. If we have money, because that's what's going on, brother. A lot of this money that a lot of these older white men have, and white women from these generational wealth, a lot of this money is what the problem is. We can't have the funds to do X, Y, and Z. We're living the paycheck to paycheck. We're always borrowing. And it's not that I'm coming down on this, but we're saying, what's the solution? Well, I think a lot of us, if we had a lot of money as the generational wealth, as some of these elder white men and women have, I think that will really catapult us over the top. But if we had it, let me ask you this. Do you think that we will make the wise decisions with it, or will we blow it on foolish things?
I think we're like any other people. And see, sometimes we get the short end of the stick. When we get money, what we're going to do. Well, first of all, we're already doing it. All the money that we have, how much or how little it is, we're giving it to other people. So it's not a matter of us being foolish with it, because we're all doing the same thing. So I'm saying that we got to look at, how do we get that? What do we do to put our children in that position? What do we do to put ourselves in that position? We must spend with one another. See, these are tips. See, people don't want to talk about the tips, guys. They don't want to talk about the tips. They want to talk about things that are sidetracked. These are the tips that we're talking about. So that's why we're dealing with the whole concept of helpful tips in life for our group improvement. And that's what I'm talking about.
Brother Ray fires back. He says the proper education, only inform them properly. They must experience and test and try on their own until you have firsthand knowledge by experiencing education.
Yeah, I've heard that too, and I know what the brother's saying. But all I'm saying is this: I'm not going to get in no contest about what it is and what it isn't. What kind of tips can we tell our people that's going to help us as a group? And education, proper education, an Afrocentric education. That's what we're talking about. One that teaches us how to pool our resources together. One that teaches us how we need to get our own hospitals, how we need our own stores, how we need everything of our own. These are tips that we're talking about.
Right. Brother Angelo says, get it, bro. Okay. Brother Ray fires back. He says, etymology is important for written literature research. Yeah. He also says the origins will never mislead you. I always do the origins first.
Yeah, he's saying go back to the beginning and find out how things started. And a lot of times you'll find out what you need when you go back to the origins.
He also fires back in here. He says, knowing the problem is basic awareness. Finding the solution to the problem takes a higher awareness. Yeah, that's it. A lot of us do know that. I just want to expand on the second part of it where he says finding the solution is that's the main thing. Because I think most of us that have a working brain, we know what's going on. We see where it's coming from. We see where our enemy is attacking us. We just, for the most part, can't find a proper solution to nip those problems in the bud. He fires back in here again. He says every problem has a solution in the problem. You just have to see the problem as the opportunity it actually is. Brother Angelo fires in here. He says group and teach. Okay. He's
Yeah,
enjoyed it.
yeah,
Okay.
Chaz, this is important, man. This is very important. Here's another tip. Now we're talking about tips. The first thing we said was we have to build our own educational system for our children. Here's another tip that we can teach our children.
Number two, teach them the value of business.
Yes. And see, my school, the school that I teach at, my students, they already know at a very young age, 7, 8, 9, 10. When we ask them, what do you want to be in life? It's instilled in them that they always say they want to own their own. They don't want to work for anybody else. Or if they have to, they're going to take what they've worked for and turn it into something for themselves. So we're teaching them the basic financial skills at a young age. Whereas when we were going to school, we were never taught that. We were taught to be subservient to somebody else, always go out and try to find a job and work for someone else. You see, these are tips, Chaz. These are beautiful tips. Teach us the value of business. How do we become business minded? What do we do in business? How does business benefit and help us? Why do we want to be business people? See, these are the things that are tips that a lot of people don't like to talk about, but this is what this broadcast is about.
Absolutely. The third one says, teach them that they will be competing with other people for their survival. Absolutely. When they're competing, and it's not always personal, that's just the way life is, where they are competing with other people. As far as certain stores may have a little bit of a higher price than theirs, you got to learn how to be in friendly competition, and just basically teaching them how to survive, especially when they get on hard times, to where, for example, they may not be making that much money that week. They may not be making that much money that month. How can you make ends meet when your business or your store isn't doing so well? So I would say, and to teach them not to be discouraged either, brother, because it's so easy to throw in the towel, quit, feel defeated, give up. I would tell them that that's not, it shouldn't be the way that they should go. I'll put it that way.
That's true. And when we got to look at, we're teaching them that they're going to be competing with other people for their survival. It's just that simple. If two people go for a job and somebody gets the job, or somebody gets to own their own business and you don't, well, then they're going to survive because now they have the income to do what they want to do. Whereas now you got to scrap. Now we got to beg. Now we have to borrow. Now we have to steal. Now we have to rob. Now we have to cheat. Now we have to do all these duplicitous things. You see? And all I'm trying to say with people is, I guess, and my auntie said it right, and I'm going to be saying more of this. And I'm not talking about us as a whole. I'm just saying that right now, as a group of people, a lot of our minds, Chaz, a lot of our minds aren't interested in tips and doing helpful things for our group. We talk about our group. We degrade our group. We say things true about our group, and a lot of things are true, but we don't talk about how we need to know that everything that we're talking about now is for the survival of a people. And yet many of us older men, we're not even looking at that because we're so busy trying to get a woman, trying to get a vehicle, or trying to get an apartment, or trying to get a car, and all those things are necessary. But our group, man, our group is doing bad as a whole. So we need tips. We need encouragement. That's what we need, because it's all about our survival.
You're absolutely right, brother. The next one says, educate them to solve the problems that they face. Yeah, they're going to always have problems. There's nobody in life who went through life without having anything done to them, didn't have any kind of problems. It's the thing they say, when you go through adversity, it teaches you what kind of person you are and teaches them how to fight through it. And just teaching them about, like you said, economic problems that they'll face, teaching them about discrimination, about people who is going to hate on them for no reason because of their race. These are all things that we need to teach our children at a young age to help them prolong this, to get along with this, basically.
Every child should know right now, whether they're 3 on up, when they can understand. Every child should know that racism is real. See, this is why I like doing this kind of broadcast, because I would use a vulgar word, but I'm not going to do this because there may be some kids here. Because I'll just put it this way.
It,
well, many of us like to skirt around the issues, but that's not the word I want to use. We like to, I'll just put it this way. We like the bull crap. Now you know what the word is. We like the bull crap. But every child should know what racism is.
Right.
how it's used against them, how it's going to affect them, and as they grow older, how it's going to get rougher and rougher. See, these are tips, Chazz. See, we
Right.
try to make it seem like we live in this world that everything is great, everybody has what they want. We don't like to deal with these issues, man. And this is why I keep talking like this, because these tips we're talking about, they must be talked about. Every child should know about how so-called race started. We know there's no such thing as race. There's only one race, which is the human race. But European people like Carl Linnaeus and Johann Blumenbach, all these guys, man, they came up with these constructs. So they created this. But we don't teach this. We're too busy teaching our children how to get a tablet and to play these games and stuff of that nature. But they got to know that this world is not nice. And so it's a mean world. And we're at the age and the state now where many of us, we don't want to hear it, Chazz. I'm telling you now, we don't want to hear it. Well, why do you think that is?
Because in our hearts, brother, we know it's true, and normally we just don't want to hear it because it kind of gets us out of our comfort zone and it kind of makes us angry. So I would say the main 2 points is when it gets things out of our comfort zone, we don't like to really be pushed. We don't really like to be in an unpleasant spot. So we'd rather just be comfortable and sit back and do what we always do or things that we're familiar with. Brother Rake fires in here. He says, be the employer instead of the employee.
That's a tip. That's right. A tip. See, that's what this broadcast is about. That's what tonight's broadcast. Helpful tips in life for group improvement. We're not talking about you whining and me crying and us talking about how woe is me and the world is against me. We're talking about what kind of things can we do that's going to help our people. And this right here is what I'm talking about. Be the employer instead of the employee. See, that's a tip right there. That's a tip.
Right. Brother Ray fires back at us. He says, when your business is struggling, ask the customers about how you can improve your business. Yeah,
tips.
I just said that because always in life, you're not going to have a month where you're booming, you're making all this money, the dough is just coming in by the boatload. When it's slow and it's not that many people, how can you make this thing, how can you make ends meet until, next week or next month or things like that so you can make it stick? But yeah, he's right. Ask for customer improvement. How can we do things at this location or at this store to help better the service for you guys? Brother Angelo fires in here. He says, working on my doctorate. I gotta go. My break is over. Now see y'all next week. Okay, Brother Angelo, we appreciate you for coming on. You can watch the playback. Brother Ray fires back in here. He says, problem are opportunities you're seeing as a problem.
Yeah, that's how we view it's our perspective, and that's very important. So it's one of those things where we have to look at the tips. And I'm telling you now, Chazz, and I hate to sound like a broken record, but I'm telling you now, I believe this. Many of us, I'm not going to say all or most, but many of us are not interested in solving our problems. Wow. We're not interested. We live a life, and this is a sad epitaph. We live a life where we go through this world, we go through ups and downs, ins and outs, happiness, sadness, et cetera, and we leave this earth miserable because we never contribute to it, because we never did look at the helpful tips in life to try to help ourselves as well as our groups. Now, our group. Now, I'm going to put this one up, and we need to spend some time on this next one because this is very crucial when it comes to a helpful tip in life for us as a group. Here it is.
Embrace failure and learn from it. Absolutely. And I said this a little bit earlier, and I don't want to sound like a broken record either. I'll try to make this quick and pass it on to you. When you fail at certain things, don't throw in the towel. Don't just quit. Don't start making yourself pitiful by starting to drink, starting to smoke, crying yourself to sleep. When you have a situation to where it seems like you can't get right, like someone said earlier, try to figure out where you went wrong at. Google it, YouTube it, call around, ask questions. But to sit there, and I'm not saying this to belittle the person, but to sit there and just say, you know what, I'm a dummy, I quit, I'm never going to be nothing. You got to stop having that attitude because it's so easy to do.
Yeah. Now, this is very important, especially when it comes to Black men. I mean, I can speak to that, but Black men, we don't realize that failure is a part of life.
Right.
Name me anybody that you know, Chaz, that have succeeded in everything that they have tried to set out to do. No one.
Nobody.
So when we fail in whatever it is, and no matter how great the failure is, we should be able to look at this thing and say, what can I learn from that? Not what can I blame other people for my failure, but what can I learn from it? What can I do to make myself a better person? So we must embrace that. We must embrace failure. But because we want to be like other people, we always want to be this knight in shining armor. They lived happily ever after and everything, because we want everybody to think that we're so tough that we have everything going on when we're hurting inside. Many of us are weak inside. And instead of us embracing the failure and saying, this is going to help me become a much better person, we keep repeating the same old mistakes over and over and over and over again. That's why you have these 90 to 100 to 110-year-old men and women still running to these buildings after all these years trying to learn something that they should have already learned. They go every week. They're looking for everything they can. They don't know enough to say, I don't need all of that. Some of it we all need. We're all growing. We're always learning. But some of them are hooked on it, Chaz. They're dependent upon it. And so they keep running to these places. They're like a junkie. They're like dope fiends. They can't stay away. And so if they miss these places, it affects their hearts because they're sick and they don't realize it. And that's why we have to tell people, you're going to fail in certain things in life. Right. I'm going to fail, but that's not the end of you. Right. That's a tip right there.
Right. And that's what I was just telling you about, brother. It's just we get so hard and down upon ourselves when we fail. And I hate seeing that. It's something that I would say, don't put all that weight and stress on you, man, because it's going to really hurt you in the long run.
Yeah, it really will. So what we need to do is let's see if we got any more comments. Here we go.
Okay. Brother Ray Fars in here. He says, Black group collective economics.
Yeah, that's when everybody else is doing it. He's right. Everybody else is doing it. Everybody else spends with their people to make sure that they can succeed. We're the only ones that don't. We don't want to spend with our people. We have a problem with our people. Right. And of course, I'm not talking about those who do us wrong. And if somebody's not doing the right thing, I'm not saying be a fool and let somebody take advantage of you, but I'm looking at an ideal situation. We don't look for groups that look like us, the businesses that we can say, hey, let me help this person because they're going to maybe put back in the community. And if they're not, maybe we can go over there and talk with them and say, hey, this is what's going on in the community. Would you help us? That's what this is all about.
Right. Brother Ray says, no struggle, no achievements. Sister Barbara Fires in here. She says, many of us dislike failure, but the antidote to that is that you gravitate to the lesson that one can learn from it. Great topic, Kings. Yeah. And Brother Ray Fires in here. He says, you can fail or learn how not to fail by your sets. I want to go back on a couple other comments we just said. It was something to the effect of, and I'm paraphrasing here, about the economics. The thing is with us, we don't like, some of us are haters. Not all of us, but I got to say that some of us are, because in our community, we don't want to see the next black man or black woman up. We would in fact, I've even heard this, brother, and you've heard this as well. I ain't helping that in. I ain't giving him my money so he can screw me over. Well, the white man or the white woman is screwing you over. And then, like you said, if we were to create, not all the time, but this is just what I hear most of the time. Well, I ain't paying $5 for that bread. Well, the brother has to get off the floor. This is his business. He's not doing it to be evil or conniving. He's doing it because he's trying to survive at Walmart. He's trying to compete with Target. He's trying to compete with CVS, Walgreens, and all these places. And the thing is, like I said, and I'll pass it back, is you can't be so hard on the black man when he's trying to get his feet off the ground.
Yeah, and that's problematic. It really is. It's very problematic. And Raymond says you can fail or learn how not to fail by your sets. Yeah, that's in time. But sometimes you can plan and do everything you want to do and have everything set up, and you can fail because of circumstances or whatever. But we're saying don't allow that to let you throw in the towel where you don't
Right.
want to live anymore and that kind of
Right.
thing. So Chaz, that's very, very important.
Right.
Oh, that we already had
We
that one.
already did that.
Let
Yeah.
me go down some more because I think we need to. We were talking about embrace failure. Okay, here we go.
Take responsibilities for our actions. Yeah. And I'm going to touch on this real quick, and I'm going to make this quick and pass it back. Sometimes, not all the time, it's our fault. We love to point the finger. We love to say it's her fault, it's his fault. Some of these things that we're doing, it's self-inflicted wounds, and we have to start being adults here and say, you know what, I did that, my bad, or I did on an accident, I make that mistake. And this is key. Take responsibility for your actions. It's not always the other person. Most of the time, it's you. And they always say that we can be our own worst enemy. And a lot of us don't like to take accountability or be responsible when we make mistakes. It's always the next man or woman's fault, they say.
I have nothing to add to that, Chaz. You took the words out of my mouth. Let's go to the next one.
Okay. Learn how to manage your money. And I can be putting this one as well. When we get a little bit of extra money, sometimes we have to learn, brother, how to put that up for a rainy day. Put that up for an extra bill that we may not see coming. Put that up for car troubles that we have. But to say, you know what? I got a little bit of overtime on my check. I'm going to go and blow all this money on new kicks, new jerseys, new cars, new hats. That's not smart, because I'm willing to bet you within a week or two, something is going to break down on our vehicles, on our house. Our ACs may give out. Anything can happen. So I would say there, and there's nothing wrong with spoiling yourself. But I would just say, when you get a large amount of money that you didn't see coming, learn how to put it up for a rainy day.
Yeah, I'm reading a book called Biology, but it's not BIOLOGY. It's BUYOLOGY, biology. What the gentleman is doing in that book is he's showing how we have all been duped, how we have all been psychologically screwed over when it comes to what we want. He is showing how we are like little kids who see something and want it and then go out and try to get it. And it's not all of us, but most of us, we've seen commercials, we've seen social media advertisements, we've seen so much, and now we don't know anything about managing. We complain a lot of times about what we don't have. But if we look at how we blow, and I'm talking about all of us, myself included.
Yeah, I put me in there as well.
We blow so much money. We blow so much of our time. We blow so much of our talent, because the mind, he said that it all starts in the mind. And once they get the mind, they get you to be that type of person who is always trying to buy something, because now we start beginning to think that what we possess is who we are. Right. And this is why when a person gets a new car, when a person gets some new clothes, when a person gets an apartment, when a person gets something new, they say, look at me. That's not you. That's not you. Those are possessions. And I think even in the Bible, it talks about how material possessions is destructive. In the Quran, it talks about material possessions is destructive. In spirituality, it talks about spiritual possessions, if we don't check them, are very, very heinous. But because most of us don't want to listen to this kind of language, we don't want to hear this. We are in the wilderness, brother. And a lot of times we don't want to come out the wilderness because we're set in our minds that you and I and no one else can tell us what to do. I think we got some more comments, but go ahead and say something while I pull it up.
Yeah, I was just going to say real quick about this money thing, and I think maybe we should do a broadcast on that. Well, not money, but just about possessions. Why we let these things dictate to us, like I said, and you said that you're reading a book about how we've been messed up in the mind. I think a lot of us have to come to a point to say, you know what? I may want that. I may really, really, really want to acquire that. You have to learn how to tell yourself, no. I may really want it. I really want this bad. But if it's not a necessity like food, water, shelter, some of these things we got to kick the tire on and just say no. But I think we should do a broadcast on that about material possessions and how it makes us Negroes.
That's coming up.
Brother Ray, he fires back. He says, you haven't failed until you give up. He also says, self-respect and self-love is very valuable. Yes. Absolutely. He also says, saving money comforts me and gives me the opportunity to afford more without going broke. And see, and I wanted to highlight his first two words, saving that money, because we all have bills, we all have things we have to pay. I get that. My issue is, brother, when we get an extra amount of, let's say, a $600 bonus, or someone sent us $600 or whatever, you just get an extra amount of money. The point is, we get that and start salivating. www.amazon.com, www.bestbuy.com, looking at all these apps trying to find something to buy it on, where I would say, learn how to say, you know what, I got this extra amount of money, I'm going to put this up instead of going to all these websites blowing it on foolishness.
Chaz, you think we should come back next week and finish this up? Because we still have some points to go. Or you want to rush through it now, or you want to come back?
I think we should come back next week and finish it up, because like you said, if we rush through it, it's not going to be right. And you want to make this a thorough teaching to make sure they get all these points through and digest it thoroughly.
You write down that possessions part so we can make sure that that's the one that comes after this. But here's a tip. Here's a tip that I want you to talk about, because I have something to say about it too. Here's a tip for our group.
Keep stress at a minimum. Yeah, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to pass it. This is why, and I'm not being funny, our medicine cabinets are always full of pills we're popping. We always taking all kind of stuff for our blood pressure, stuff for our cholesterol, stuff that's giving us headaches, because we're stressing too much. Stop worrying about things you can't, what you would say, stop worrying about things that you can't control. You cannot control everything. Life is going to happen. Stress ages us, they say. It messes with your cortisol. You have to try to keep stress at a minimum. Now, don't get me wrong. We all do. But we're sitting up at night, constantly on the phone, calling everyone about our problems, looking for solutions, brother. And maybe this, and I know I'm kind of going off on the rant, but I think we should do something on this one too about stress, brother, because it's tearing us up. But I'll pass it down to
possession. Right, but write that down too about stress and possession so we can keep these things going, because we definitely want to do something. Now, here's what I think about this stress.
Okay.
This is a good tip for a group of people who has a lot going on. We should keep stress at a minimum. But like you said, unfortunately, what we do is, if stress was a person, Chaz, and stress knocked on the door, we shouldn't answer the door because we don't want to invite stress in, you see. But most of us, we see stress coming. Before stress comes to the door, we open the door for stress to come in. We welcome stress. We let stress sit on the couch. We let stress go and put his feet or her feet up on our couch. But we let stress go into the refrigerator, pop a beer, get a beverage, get some water. We let stress do all the stress lives all around us and in us, because we don't know how to keep it at a minimum, because stress is going to happen. So we're not saying you can live a stress-free life. But what I'm saying is, Chaz, this has got to be a subject that we do, because a lot of us are stressed out. We're stressed out, man. And I know. This is how I know we're stressed out.
How, brother?
We're trying everything we could possibly think of to get rid of it.
Yeah.
We're drinking more water. We're still stressed out. We'll stop eating certain foods. We're still stressed out. We're running to every spiritual house that's open. We're still stressed out. We're going to every mosque that's opening the door. We're still stressed out. Okay. We're running to every church and cathedral. We're going to every building that you can shake a stick at. We're still stressed out. Okay. Something isn't working, and I believe it's what's inside of us that's not working, you see.
Right.
And we have duped our own selves. We have fooled ourselves into thinking that if we go somewhere that we're living a stress-free life. All you got to do is leave that place, and it's back in the saddle again. So that's problematic, Chaz.
Yeah, I was just going to touch on that. Like, we feel good, like you said, when we go to these buildings for like an hour, 2 hours. Some churches may be for 2. But it's like all it takes is for someone to call us with some kind of news that we don't like, and we fly off the handle. So I would just say, like you said, this stress thing, brother, especially in the Black community. And I'm willing to bet you real quick, and I'll pass it. If they did a survey on the whole world, what race is most affected by stress, I'm willing to bank on, and it's not nothing that I'm proud about. I'm just saying I know us as a people. I'm willing to bet you that blacks are the most stressed,
And
and
I
some
believe,
of it,
yeah.
is just because we want to be. Most of it,
And some of it is because, Chaz, it has to do with your thinking. It has to do with one's consciousness. And when the consciousness is not right and the consciousness doesn't know which way to turn, and I'm going to talk about this too in the upcoming weeks, when the consciousness is at an all-time low, but the person thinks it's at an all-time high. That person, and I've told you this on this broadcast before, and I want to talk about it tomorrow because I got a meeting with some sisters that we're going to talk. But I want to say this now, Chaz. A lot of us are possessed. See, I gotta go back to
oh no, you
yes,
did it.
I gotta go back to that. A lot of us are possessed and we don't realize it. We're possessed with a system of ignorance. We're possessed with a religious dogma that is not true. We are possessed with all of these things that makes us who we are. We don't realize that we have invited this stuff into our lives. We have lured this stuff into our hearts, and now we're suffering from it. But because we think we're okay, we are as crazy as a Betsy bug. Many of us are. And we don't want to come to the grips with we have some serious internal issues. And so instead of us dealing with those issues, we go to places to try to cover up for what's really our problem. You got some problems. I have some problems. We all have problems, but most of us don't want to look at it for what it's worth. So we want to find something, a bottle, we got to find something. Dope, we got to find something. Male or female, we got to find something. Religion, we got to find something. Food, we got to find something to try to make us feel good when the bottom line is we are too old to not be able to have a grip on all this crap that we have allowed to get into our life.
Man, you crazy. Yeah, you absolutely right about all those points. This stress is no joke. Brother Ray fires back at us. He says, Black love and Black respect, Black power.
Yeah, I want to talk about that second one because this is a helpful tip. Black respect. Chaz, when you lose respect for a group of people, you're done. Because when you lose respect for yourself, you're done. Many of us have lost respect for our own selves. We don't realize that because we look at ourselves in the mirror and we see that we're however many pounds we weigh, how tall we are, but we've lost respect for ourselves because we have allowed things to come into our lives that's unhealthy. So we're just like a person who is doing something that's hurting themselves and they don't know it. So we've lost respect. So that's a good thing, he says, Black respect.
Brother Ray put some crazy comment on here. He said, blank relieves stress.
Yeah, but sometimes it adds to the stress when you mess around and get to with the wrong person. Keep going, man.
Brother Ray says, Icky still have that great sense of humor. Okay.
You have to be. That's another good tip in life. And we didn't put this on there, but that's another tip in life. Yeah. Lighten up. Laugh sometime. Don't always have this old, mean mugging, always frowning up, ready to bite somebody's nose off. Relax. It's not that deep, man, because you're going to die anyway.
Right. Brother Ray Fires here. He says racism does cause PTSD.
Yeah. All these years, see, these are tips. All these years, Chaz, that we have gone through this stuff. And all these years of not the what they call the last hired, the first fired, all these years of being denied, all these years of fighting for our rights, and we're still doing that. All these years of being degraded, dehumanized, all these years have a lot to do with why we are stressed out, you see. But a lot of us don't want to deal with that. So I keep telling you, we want to sugarcoat it, or we want to try to put something over the wound to make ourselves think that we're okay. And all it takes is for something to happen in our lives. And I'm telling you now, what's in that heart, you're going to explode. You're going to explode. And that's why it is the way it is today. And that's why many of us are the way we are today.
Brother Ray Fire said he says generational trauma. That's another one that could be talked about for a broadcast. The problems and the pain and the generational just agony that we face
Mhm.
for years, brother, it will mess a person's mind up if they're not strong.
Yeah.
Uh,
So yeah, I was looking for our little song to go off because I didn't realize it was about a minute, not even a minute left. We got about 3 seconds left, but I'll let you go ahead and close us out today. We'll come back with helpful tips in life for group improvement part 3, but I'll let you close us out and we'll get out of here.
Well, I would say it feels good to be back. We were off for 2 weeks, and I appreciate everybody that watched. Sister Barbara, Sister Marie, Brother Ray, all you guys, we appreciate you. But tonight's broadcast was simple and basic. Helpful tips on how to have group improvement, how the failures in life make us really quit, how some of the things in the educational system should be taught to our youth. All these principles, I think, are very important, and they should be taught to our youth at a young age. And I want to back up on this again, like we just talked about. Stress. Life is constantly throwing problems at us. How are you going to deal with it? Are you always going to go to, like you said, that pill bottle or that blunt? Quit doing that and just say, I'm going to take my problems head on and just face it. And last but not least, spiritually, brother, we have to make sure that we're living a peaceful life, because if we're not, this stress is really going to take its toll on you. That's all I have for today. I hope we can come back next week and finish this up. Take care, everybody.